In 1999, a single clue in a dusty police file sent investigators chasing a shadow network that spanned 5 countries, a false identity ring that traded in secrets, fortunes, and murder. Tonight, how one whisper became a global crime machine, and how the truth almost disappeared forever. It began as so many great crimes do, with a small, ordinary thing, a name scrawled in the margin of an old police report. The file belonged to a missing persons detective in a quiet European port city, a case long cold. The name didn't match any suspect records, but it linked to a passport, and the passport had been used in 3 other countries under 3 different faces. Within days, investigators discovered a pattern. A spiderweb of counterfeit documents in shell companies, small at first, a fake bank account here, a courier in Rotterdam there, but the web led inexorably outward. Linked ledger entries showed money moving between ghost businesses in the Caribbean, a private mailbox in Cyprus, and payoffs to low-level officials. Each node looked trivial alone. Together, they suggested the architecture of something far bigger. The central figure, someone everyone came to call the architect, never appeared in CCTV and had no phone registered in their real name. Instead, they traded in identities, forged passports, rented apartments under false names, phony corporate registrations. Investigators suspected one key motive: to move people and money invisibly across borders. But how do you prove a ghost exists? That question would send law enforcement on a chase across continents. Detectives began to stitch the fragments together the only way they could, by following the margins. Handwriting experts compared ink and loops. Bank clerks reread months of routine forms. An analyst in the forensic lab ran a faded passport through scanners until a chip's faint signature revealed a manufacturing batch. Small things, the kind of detail that bores headline writers, became the map to the whole operation. A grainy photograph tucked into a courier's folder showed a cafe table with a distinctive coffee cup. That cup was traced to a chain that sold the same design only in 3 cities. The list of coincidences thinned, and the outline of the architect began to take shape. Not everyone believed. For years, the market for false papers had been treated as scattered criminality. Petty forgers, opportunistic smugglers, nothing to warrant a multinational task force. But the ledger told another story. It was meticulous, almost banal. Dates, names, amounts, an economy of small payments that added up to serious sums. Some entries were literal ledger lines. Others were cryptic codes that, once decoded by a linguist, read like nicknames for routes and safe houses. Whoever kept that book had run a business that treated people like inventory and identities like stock to be moved and sold. The human toll crept into the case slowly, in half-spoken calls and anonymous tips. Families who once clung to hope called to say their missing relatives had been traced to identities now living in other countries under unfamiliar faces. An aid worker in West Africa recognized a man the investigators had labeled Case 72, a refugee who vanished from a camp and reappeared months later with a fresh passport and a new name. The realization that the ring didn't simply sell documents, but erase lives hardened the investigators' resolve. If the architect avoided cameras, they left traces in the infrastructure they exploited. Registrar clerks who signed off on suspicious papers, shell corporations that existed on paper only, and couriers who crossed borders carrying envelopes of worn bills and laminated lies. Building a case meant converting those traces into testimony, and testimony meant convincing frightened insiders to speak. One courier, a small, wiry man with sun-cracked hands and a guilty look, chose a single night to come forward. He brought with him a battered notebook and a story that fit the ledger like a key in a lock. He could not name the architect, but he could point to the machine behind the name. The network of facilitators, the safe houses, the men who collected payments and made problems disappear. The chase that followed was slow and meticulous, stitched together by subpoenas and midnight drives, by translators and hopeful journalists. The geography of the investigation was as varied as it was cruel. A dingy office above a bakery in Lisbon, an amber-lit registry in an Eastern European capital, a beachfront mailbox in a tax haven that existed only on paper. Every new discovery raised more questions. How many identities had been sold? Who had bought them? And what price had been paid in silence and vanished people? In the end, the real mystery was less about a single person and more about the market that made the architect possible. Arresting hands and faces would matter. Dismantling the demand would matter more. But for now, with one battered ledger in evidence and a courier willing to talk, the hunt had a foothold. Investigators closed the file and opened a folder marked with a single sticky note. Follow the ledger. The next move would not be glamorous. It would be relentless, and it would reach into places where the law was thin and shadows were thick, exactly where the architect thrived. Tracing that trail required cooperation and a kind of grudging trust between police forces that historically did not share much. Each agency guarded its secrets like currency, and yet, as the clues multiplied, even rival departments realized they were all chasing the same ghost. Files were encrypted, translations delayed, and evidence went missing in transit, but somehow the momentum kept growing. The first break came thousands of miles from the original case. A forensic accountant in Sao Paulo noticed a strange pattern. Modest wire transfers, a few $100s at a time, sent every month to remote mining towns in West Africa. The sums were too small for corporate deals, yet too consistent for personal remittances. Each transaction used a slightly different company name, but the sender's bank ID never changed. On paper, it looked like a clerical error. To a trained eye, it was a breadcrumb. Meanwhile, halfway across the world, a cybercrime unit in Bangkok had been tracking a cluster of suspicious emails. Each message carried an identical digital signature that traced back to servers hosted somewhere in Eastern Europe, the same region tied to counterfeit passport blanks and digital forgery rings. When the two findings were finally compared, the puzzle began to align. Someone somewhere was coordinating a marketplace in identities, operating across continents as if borders didn't exist. Slowly, a grim pattern emerged, an invisible supply chain. There were those who created the identities, skilled forgers and compromised registry clerks who altered birth records in exchange for cash. There were those who moved them, couriers and brokers who ferried papers through airports, blending into crowds. And there were those who protected the operation, a violent enforcement wing that ensured silence through fear. Every piece fit with chilling precision, suggesting a hierarchy designed by someone who understood both bureaucracy and human nature. The ring's tradecraft was disturbingly professional. Photographs were retouched to perfection, matching eye lines and lighting angles to genuine passport photos. Entire digital footprints, social media pages, employment histories, even tax records, were fabricated to withstand scrutiny. The network used rented VPNs, prepaid SIM cards, and rotating safe houses to stay one step ahead. Every fake identity came wrapped in layers of plausible detail, convincing enough to fool border agents and banks alike. But beneath the sophistication was something uglier. The identities being traded weren't invented out of thin air. They belonged to real people, refugees, debtors, and the undocumented became unwitting donors to this invisible commerce. Their faces, fingerprints, and data were copied, sold, and reused. In many cases, they never even knew they'd been erased. Then came the breakthrough. In a warehouse outside Prague, customs officers intercepted a courier whose nervous behavior gave him away. Hidden inside a hollowed-out book was a small notebook bound in cracked leather. Inside, a ledger, pages of names, dates, coded payments, and transfers across multiple currencies. It was a network's accounting system, and it told a story that no one was ready to believe. Most of the entries looked routine, minor sums, short notes, currency codes. But one stood out. A single transfer, 10 times larger than any other, routed through an unregistered account to a medical research facility in Eastern Europe. The date matched precisely with the disappearance of a journalist who'd been investigating rumors of illegal organ trade. Investigators stared at that page for hours. Was it coincidence? Or had they stumbled onto proof that the network's business went far beyond forged papers? Into human exploitation itself? That discovery changed everything. What began as a case of document fraud now smelled like organized crime at an industrial scale, one that crossed the blurred lines between corruption, trafficking, and covert state complicity. Detectives who once traded theories now faced the possibility that parts of their own institutions had been compromised. The investigation widened overnight. Task forces were reformed, subpoenas reissued, and secure communication lines established between agencies that had previously ignored each other. Analysts mapped connections between registries, banks, and satellite offices, revealing a latticework so vast it seemed impossible that one person could have designed it. And yet, all signs pointed back to the same unseen figure, the architect. The name appeared in coded messages, invoices, and even whispered testimony from frightened intermediaries. Whoever they were, they had built something that turned human identity itself into a commodity. And for the first time, investigators understood this wasn't just a crime against institutions. It was a crime against the idea of who a person is. That realization hardened their resolve. They weren't just hunting a fugitive anymore. They were dismantling an invisible empire. Arrests came not from a dramatic raid, but from the kind of work that rarely makes headlines. The slow, methodical grind of subpoenas, stakeouts, and late-night conference calls. Months passed before the public ever heard a whisper. Behind the scenes, analysts compared phone logs, customs manifests, and surveillance photos until the same pattern appeared again and again. Every arrow on the board pointed to a courier, a man who had spent years moving sealed envelopes for the architect's network, never daring to look inside. He was the one who broke, not because of conscience at first, but because of fear. When another courier disappeared after a routine delivery, this man realized that silence would not protect him. So one night under heavy rain, he walked into a police station with nothing but a burner phone and a small notebook. What he revealed unraveled the case from the inside. His testimony, calm, exhausted, and quietly terrified, gave investigators the coordinates they needed to strike. The takedown was global in scale, but astonishingly quiet. In 4 countries, task forces moved within the same hour. Apartments were entered, laptops seized, accounts frozen before sunrise. Some suspects were arrested still in their pajamas. Others vanished minutes before agents arrived, as if warned. But even with a few escapes, the core was crushed. Servers containing years of encrypted records were recovered, revealing data trails that confirmed what investigators had long suspected. The architect's network was less a single organization than an entire underground economy, a factory producing ghosts. Newspapers called it the dismantling of the ghost factory. For weeks, headlines flashed across Europe and Latin America. Commentators praised the coordination, the rare victory in a world of fragmented jurisdictions. Yet inside the task force headquarters, celebration was muted. The victory felt fragile, temporary, because for every hard drive seized, another shadow operation likely existed somewhere else, learning from these mistakes. Courtrooms filled with defendants, lawyers, and translators. Registry clerks who had sold signatures for cash claimed ignorance. Mid-level fixers blamed unseen handlers. The architect, when finally extradited, said little. Their calm demeanor unnerved even veteran investigators. A faint smile as charges were read, as if they already knew the system would adapt and survive. Even after the convictions, the questions refused to die. How many people had vanished through those false identities? How many had started new lives, willingly or not? And how many families still waited for answers that would never come? For the detectives who had lived this case for years, the moral weight was heavier than the paperwork, because behind every number on those ledgers was a person, someone whose existence had been rewritten or erased. Worse still, the investigation exposed something far larger than one criminal ring. The cracks in global systems meant to protect identity itself. For every registry clerk caught taking bribes, another loophole in the infrastructure became visible. Every sealed passport database suddenly looked vulnerable. If one group could turn identity into a market, what stopped another from doing the same tomorrow? The architect was sentenced, a long, silent trial behind closed doors, and the headlines moved on. But investigators knew the market hadn't died. It had simply changed hands. Technology kept evolving, and the hunger for invisibility would always exist. For fugitives, for the desperate, for the powerful. As long as that demand survived, someone would find a way to supply it. The final image is almost mundane, a great evidence folder being closed. Its corners are frayed, its labels curling, sticky notes still clinging to the edges. Inside it lies a ledger, the same worn book that started everything. To the world, it's just paperwork. To the people who chased it, it's a symbol of how truth sometimes hides in plain sight. A small victory in a much larger, unfinished war. Outside the courtroom, one of the lead investigators summed it up quietly to a journalist. "Ghosts don't die," he said. "They adapt." And that's the real story, not just a criminal network, but of fragile systems that let it breathe. The fight ahead isn't about catching the next architect. It's about building systems that protect the forgotten, the stateless, and the unseen. Because when borders can be bought, so can lives. End with Hook for next episode. Next time, we follow one of the missing people erased by this network, a child who vanished under a different name, and a family that never stopped searching.